Kiyotaka Ayanokoji starts attending Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School, which boasts a 100% chance of college entry and employment rate upon graduation, though not much is known about the particulars of the government-funded institution. The school is divided into a class hierarchy from A through D, with the former resting at the top. Upon exiting the bus, he's confronted by another student, who he glanced at after nobody gave up their seat. It turns out she's in the same class, where one student tries to elicit introductions from everyone, as the teacher is yet to appear. Ayanokoji awkwardly fumbles through his, before Sai Chabashida, 1D's homeroom teacher, explains that students are to remain on the premises, which has everything they need. Instead of money, each student is given 100,000 points at the beginning of each month. 1 point is the equivalent of 1 yen. She goes on to explain how everything is determined by merit. While running errands, he bumps into the same girl, who reluctantly tells him her name, Suzune Horikita. The rest of the class forms groups, besides the 2 quiet loners. Kikyo Kushida, who claims to want to befriend everyone, asks Ayanokoji to help with Suzune, as he's the only one she speaks to. Asking her to accompany him to a cafe, she leaves as soon as she figures out Kushida's plan. Most of the class takes advantage of their points and ignores their studies. When May 1st rolls around, nobody gets any points, which is what their actions merited. There is a chance to move up in the ranks. However, D class is at the bottom already. Another failed exam means expulsion. Suzune treats Ayanokoji to an expensive lunch. She explains how 3 of their classmates with the lowest marks refused to join the rest of the students' study group. She uses the lunch as leverage. Now he owes her. Her goal is to rise in the ranks, eventually reaching A class. Ayanokoji tries to convince Ken Sudo, Kanji Ike, and Haruki Yamauchi to join their study group, all of whom refuse without hearing him out. Without many options, he decides to contact Kushida and use her as an ambassador to convince them. She agrees, but only if she joins the study group. Suzune adamantly refuses her involvement, immediately answering before he can explain. In their first session, the 3 leave after Sudo refuses to deal with Suzune in favor of furthering his basketball career. Ayanokoji overhears a disagreement between Suzune and her older brother, the student council president, stepping in before he can assault her, keeping up with Manabu, who attempts to fight. He stands down after realizing Ayanokoji is the student who scores 50% on every test, even the entry exams, which he claims is a coincidence. The 2 speak after Manabu leaves, giving pseudo answers to each other's inquiries. Suzune is, however, serious about disbanding the study group. Despite this, Class D overall performs better than some of the other first years. Suspicious, Suzune wonders what Ayanokoji did to sway the results. A few days prior, he noticed Sudo being harassed by 3 students from Class C after hearing about his potential expulsion. Before things escalate, another student, Honami, steps in and threatens to report the instigators. Sudo still refuses to study with Ayanokoji after witnessing the event unfold. So, he asks an upper year D class for copies of his first-year exams, offering 10,000 points, eventually settling on 15,000, while throwing in a few quizzes too. Ayanokoji asks Kushida to take credit, as she hands out copies to the class. Despite everything, Sudo fails by 1 point. When their teacher, Chabashida, goes for a smoke break before meeting Sudo for his expulsion, Ayanokoji follows her. He recalls her saying everything at the school is purchasable with points and offers to buy the extra mark for Sudo to pass. The price, 100,000 points. Suzune appears behind him and offers to pay half. Though nobody in D class has ever moved up in the ranks before, their efforts might be in vain. They hold a celebration in Ayanokoji's dorm that night. When asked how he was able to change the teacher's mind, he shifts responsibility to Suzune, who becomes flustered trying to explain. Kushida leaves her phone in his room. While going to return it, Ayanokoji sees her furiously kicking a railing while cursing Suzune, fostering a deep hatred for her. When she notices him, Kushida threatens to accuse him of sexual assault if he reveals her true personality. She immediately switches back to her uncanny, cheerful demeanor after he agrees and says she can trust him. He wonders if it's all an act. Honami, it turns out, is the rep from Class 1B and is all around praised for her help raising marks for the test. Like Suzune, she too wishes to reach Class A in the rankings. Ayano Koji, reminded of the sinister confrontation with Kushida, is still unsure of what to make of it while stuck in an elevator with her and Suzune. Before walking to class, Honami approaches them, greeting Kushida as Suzune goes on ahead and wonders if Class D got their points yet. Apparently, there's been a delay. Later, Ayano Koji meets with Honami, who begs him to pretend to be her boyfriend. She doesn't know how to turn down the person who left a letter in her locker. But when the girl shows up, he says he's just her friend. After, Honami apologizes for putting him in that situation. She owes him one. Class D's points won't be distributed unless they can clear up an incident that happened the day before. Sudo was attacked by two fellow basketball teammates and their friend from Class C. He attests it was self-defense, but without a witness proving his innocence before the hearing takes place the following week, it'll result in another month without points for D class. They post on message boards, but haven't made much progress. When Honami approaches Ayano Koji, Kushida, and Sudo's friends, initially suspicious, she assures him she's just returning the favor and helps search for witnesses. One of Honami's classmates receives an anonymous tip on one of Sudo's aggressors. While trying to pay them anonymously from Honami's phone, Ayano Koji notices her incredibly high balance, wondering what she did to obtain it. Ayano Koji finds Kushida and Sudo's friends in his dorm, allegedly making copies of his room key. Suzune notices all their shoes after knocking and almost leaves before revealing her suspicions about Sakura knowing something, a girl in their class who's been acting strange ever since. When they confront her the next day, she panics, drops her camera, denies knowing anything, and runs away, unable to power her camera back on. Ayano Koji and Kushida go to the electronics store with Sakura to get the camera repaired. Wondering why he needed to come, it becomes clear when the clerk asks her to fill out the contact form. Ayano Koji uses his information to quell her anxieties. When Kushida leaves the two alone, Sakura admits that she doesn't see anything in his eyes, able to look into them, unlike most others. Back at his dorm, Kushida shows Ayano Koji pictures of an internet model they surmise is Sakura. He noticed her glasses were fake, which would make sense given this new revelation. Suzune seems annoyed about him spending the day with them for some reason. That day after class, Manabu presides over the hearing. The ruling is in Class C's favor, as their injuries clearly outweigh Sudo's. However, their accusations and the entire situation seem off. Ayano Koji forces Suzune to stand up and defend her classmate, bringing Sakura on as a witness. Her photo isn't enough for Class C's teacher to back off. He tries to compromise. Suzune refuses to accept this and is dead set on Sudo's innocence. Class C's actions were clearly premeditated. Manabu contests that one side must be lying. If neither can prove their claims, his decision will be made the following day, with more severe consequences. Even expulsion is on the table. Afterwards, Manabu runs into Ayano Koji and Sakura in the hall. He assumes they actually had a plan, insinuating Sakura's story was nothing but lies. When Ayano Koji defends her, saying he believes every word, Manabu almost hits him, asking him to prove it. Dodging at the last second, surprising Sakura and Manabu's secretary, Ayano Koji simply says he'll have to wait. Sakura finds pictures of herself, seemingly from a stalker, in her mailbox and collapses in tears. Ayano Koji and Suzune discover that the staircase where the incident happened is one of the only places in the school without cameras. They set up a meeting with the 3 students from Class C, placing cameras in the stairwell as a bluff. They claim that the student council was testing them and didn't bring it up. It works, and the 3 cave, agreeing to rescind their statement. Returning the dummy cameras he paid to borrow from Honami, Ayano Koji receives a call from Sakura, who's clearly distressed. She's being pursued by her stalker, the clerk from the electronics store. Before he can do anything, Ayanokoji and Honami block off his exits and alert the authorities. Meanwhile, Chabashira confronts Suzune on the roof about how she got them to withdraw from the case. Refusing to answer, the teacher switches gears and tells her to be careful regarding Ayanokoji. D class is for rejects. Why is someone so capable of hiding his true capabilities there? At the same time, Manabu congratulates Ayanokoji on his success, though still maintaining that it was all Suzune's idea. Regardless, Manabu offers him a spot on the student council as a secretary, though he turns it down. Suzune appears, looking as if she overheard. After failing to get Sudo expelled, the 3 students from Class C are punished by their leader. He demands to know the name of whoever tricked them. Running into one of the leaders of Class A, he promises that he's coming for her too. There can be only one ruler of the school. While walking together in the rain, Suzune stops Ayanokoji and accuses him of orchestrating everything, asking what his motive is. He plays it off like usual, and she presses him, wanting to know who he really is. This prompts a flashback to him as a child, seemingly in some institution with others, as one child collapses. He tells Suzune he'll help her get to Class A if she doesn't pry into his life. Summer vacation is in full swing, and Suzune continues to ignore Ayanokoji's phone calls until she finally gives in and agrees to go to the pool. The night before, Sudo, Kanji, Haruki, and their leader, Hideo, met to discuss a plan to infiltrate the girls' changing room to set up cameras. After they all arrive, Hideo observes the pool area from a window while communicating with walkie-talkies and overwrought hand signals. Haruki sneaks in, disguised as a janitor, and closes off the area as the others play volleyball. They have to change plans when Kakeru and his lackeys from Class C make their way to the changing rooms. Sudo runs in and confronts them to stall long enough for Kanji to escape. Hideo signals Ayanokoji, who knows about the plan, so he gets Suzune to give a speech about Class C climbing the ranks to reach Class A from the top diving board. This attracts everyone in the area. After Kanji escapes, Suzune takes the SD cards out of the cameras after Ayanokoji informs her of the plan. He decides to push her into the pool after she denies having fun, provoking a splash fight between the students of Class D. Later, he sends her a group photo, eliciting a rare smile as she collapses on her bed. Chabashira meets with Ayanokoji, telling him that a man contacted the school requesting his immediate expulsion. She'll cover for him. All he has to do is work to reach Class A. He refuses, but is forced to comply after she reminds him that he'll lose his freedom. All the first-year students are on a field trip, but it's more like a vacation, as they're staying on a luxury cruise ship. Ayanokoji and Suzune don't believe it's simply a vacation. Apparently, there's a boarding house on an island big enough for every student. Ryuen approaches her about the security camera bluff and tries to manipulate her. When another Class C student, Ibuki, calls him out for something, she's stopped by his bodyguard Albert. Sakura practices asking Ayanokoji out before being surprised when he appears behind her, and she quickly runs off as Kushida notices them together. He tries to leave when Kushida stops him. Her demeanor changes once again. She accuses him of being wary of her, and he doesn't deny it. She switches back and admits she's lonely, though he just mumbles a good night and walks off. They arrive at the island, where the real reason behind the cruise is revealed. The students must survive for 1 week on a deserted island. Class 1D goes over their resources and the rules surrounding the test. They debate whether to spend some of their initial 300 S points early on, as they are converted into class points at the end of the week, bolstering their class rankings. The class decides to find a place to set up camp first, while Ayanokoji worries if Suzune will be okay. He volunteers to scout ahead with Sakura and Koenji, who vanishes while swinging through the trees. They continue down the path and stumble upon a cave, most likely one of the landmarks Chabashira mentioned. If occupied by a group leader, they obtain a bonus point, which can't be used during the test. In the end, correctly guessing another group's leader garners an extra 50 S points. However, if the guess is incorrect, that value becomes a penalty. If a class's leader is guessed, that class receives a 50-point penalty and loses all bonus points gained during the week. Ayanokoji stops Sakura from being hasty, covering her mouth and hiding behind a tree when Katsuragi and Totsuka from Class A exit the cave, almost discovering their position. They confirm the occupation, as Sakura deduces Katsuragi must be the leader as he was holding a key card. Meanwhile, Class 1D finds a spot close to a river. The next step is deciding who to make the leader. The occupation has to be renewed every 8 hours. Kushida proposes Suzune, and everyone agrees. To hide her identity, they'll form a group around the console each time. While looking for resources, Ayanokoji stumbles on an injured Ibuki and invites her back to stay with them. Though apprehensive at first, she's surprised they would help someone from Class C, thinking they should see her as the enemy. Everything is going well as the group celebrates their first day's progress when they receive news that Koenji, who disappeared earlier, made it back to the ship. The class loses 30 S points, and the person who claims to be too sick to continue must remain on board. Ayanokoji has another flashback. A faceless man tells him that having great power while not using it as an advantage is for fools. On the second day of the test, Ayanokoji and Suzune venture off to other classes' camps. Class B's camp is run similar to theirs. They also have a member of Class C that was apparently kicked out of their camp. Class A occupies the cave under heavy guard. They refuse to allow them inside their operation. Class C is set up on a beach, where Ryuen and his followers are partying it up with no intention of spending the whole week on the island. Ayanokoji notices a walkie-talkie on the table next to him. Since they spent all their points, they won't suffer the penalty for heading back to the ship. On the third night, someone is shown breaking into the girl's tent, searching Ibuki's bag for her cell phone. On the fourth day, Class C's departure is confirmed. On the fifth, Karuizawa discovers that her underwear has been stolen. Discord sprouts between the girls and the boys, the girls insisting the boys' bags be searched. Yamauchi finds it in Ike's bag, and he gives it to Ayanokoji to put in his pocket. When the search comes up negative, a pat-down is requested. When the class rep Yosuke searches him, he declares the second search is negative, covering for Ayanokoji. Later, Yosuke confronts him and confirms what happened, taking the underwear himself, as it belongs to his girlfriend, and it's much easier to explain. The trust between the boys and girls is gone, so they decide to separate the camp in two. The girls elect Yosuke to watch the boys and move the tent, but someone needs to watch him as well. Suzune chooses Ayanokoji. Ibuki asks him who he thinks stole the underwear, as everyone suspects her, but he says he trusts her. That night, Ayanokoji confronts Suzune about her health, knowing she's been sick the whole trip, taking her temperature. The next day, he asks her to show him the keycard to confirm its appearance, as he's only seen one from afar, though he isn't certain upon seeing it. Yamauchi puts mud in her hair as a joke, though Suzune surprises him when she takes him down. She goes to a nearby waterfall to wash off. Returning, she takes Ayanokoji aside and informs him that the keycard was stolen. She stays behind while he returns to camp. After a while, she notices a pillar of smoke coming from the camp's direction. The survival test manual was set on fire, causing even more discord. Ibuki slips away during the panic. Suzune chases after her. Confronting her, she accuses Ibuki of stealing the card. When she goes to check her bag, she suddenly attacks Suzune. Finally admitting she was the thief, she knocks Suzune out and gives the card to the student who requested it. Ibuki digs up the walkie-talkie that she buried and lets Katsuragi of Class A know about recovering the card. It turns out they're working together with Class C. Ayanokoji finds and moves Suzune out of the rain and explains to her what happened after she wakes up. He tries to get her to withdraw as her illness worsens. Feeling guilty about losing the card, she refuses. He takes it upon himself to render her unconscious and carries her to the beach to explain the situation. On the final day, the classes are asked to write down their guesses about who the other class leaders are. They all gather on the beach. Ryuen suddenly appears as the only remaining member of Class C. Katsuragi thanks him for helping Class A win. However, Ryuen tells him to wait. Something interesting is about to happen. On the first day, Class C signed a contract with Class A, where Class C transfers 200 S points worth of goods to Class A. Class C identifies the leader of Class B and D, giving the info to Class A. Ryuen sent spies to their camps and spent the remaining 100 S points before the rest of Class C dropped out as he stayed behind. Ibuki's camera broke, so she had to get the physical card as proof. On the final day, he wrote down the names of the leaders, thinking his team would come out on top. But as the results are revealed, everyone is completely shocked. In last place, Class C with 0 points. Third place, Class A with 120. Then Class B with 140. And the winner, Class D, with a total of 225 points. Suzune confronts Aina Koji about what he did. He knew Ibuki was a spy from the get-go, destroying her digital camera to force her into stealing the keycard and setting the manual on fire to give her a chance to escape. He saw Katsuragi on the first day with the keycard and knew the leader was the only other person with him, as cautious as he is. After seeing the two-way radio, he knew Ryuen was on the island the whole time and must have been their leader. He didn't bother finding Class B's leader due to their alliance. Suzune is floored, unable to believe how he pulled it off and not understanding his motivation for helping her. But before he answers, Suzune is swarmed. He already told them it was all her idea, like usual. Kushida tells him she hates that she doesn't have a hidden side, assuming Aina Koji would choose Suzune over her, though his response tells her nothing. He goes to meet with their teacher, who commends him. She reveals that his father was the one who requested his expulsion, but said he would soon leave of his own accord. Suzune confronts him. Flustered, she considers him an ally, continuing to talk as he spaces out. He doesn't consider her or anyone else an ally. People are nothing but tools to him, and he doesn't care what he has to do or sacrifice. In the end, he's there to win. Nothing else matters. Thank you for listening until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.